The study of the history of mass communication must concentrate on the emergence of media industries and audiences. On the supply side, technology and economic organization are necessary for the development of media industries. In fact, different historical periods are distinguished by their technologies. The growth of the newspaper industry in the 19th century was influenced by the development of the rotary press, which allowed the reproduction of more sheets per hour, and linotype, which allowed newspaper pages to be composed on a keyboard rather than by hand. The technical improvements allowed more newspapers to be printed more quickly and encouraged the growth of mass circulation popular papers. However, the relationship between technology and communication is not straightforward. Technology is often represented as having its own internal drive, which determines the nature and content of what is communicated. Such a view ignores the social, economic, and cultural developments that shape the application of media technology. How media technologies are adopted, adapted, and institutionalized, and by whom and for what purpose is essential in understanding the development of mass communication. One specific moral outlook that many Enlightenment authors hoped to cultivate through education was cosmopolitanism. This goal was particularly prevalent among intellectuals in the German Enlightenment. Johann Bernhard Basedow, the educational reformer, held that the primary aim of education is to prepare students to become citizens of our world rather than of a specific principality or state. And Immanuel Kant stressed that the correct plan for education must be made in a cosmopolitan manner, urging teachers to stress philanthropy toward others and then also cosmopolitan dispositions in their lessons, so that students would eventually come to rejoice at the best for the world, even if it is not to the advantage of their fatherland or to their own gain. Many American colleges and universities at present do strive to offer curricula aimed at promoting world citizenship and cultivating humanity in their students, but no hard data exists to support the claim that such curricula are successful in achieving their aim. Certainly, there is no guarantee that students who receive an education intended to implant cosmopolitan dispositions will actually develop such dispositions and act consistently from them. Some people are resolutely selfish, and no amount of exposure to a world citizen model of education is going to change them. Educators can only try to teach cosmopolitan dispositions persistently and earnestly, and then hope for the best, acting on the highly plausible assumption that the habits of thought, reflection, and emotional response human beings learn when young usually, but not necessarily always, influence their moral orientations as adults. George W. Bush, former president of the USA and firm believer in the education system, once publicly said, unintentionally making a grammatical mistake, "Rarely is the question asked, 'Is our children learning?'" He is also said to have made a much worse mistake in speaking to a national teachers' conference, beginning, "I'd like to spank all the teachers," when he wished to thank them for all their hard work. The type of slip of the tongue in the second example above, where the word used sounds like the right word but is embarrassingly wrong, is known as a malapropism, after the character Mrs. Malaprop in R.B. Sheridan's play The Rivals. And there is another kind of slip of the tongue, which has a characteristic of confusing two words with the same vowel. This is called a spoonerism, named after the Reverend William Archibald Spooner, professor of Oxford, who was notoriously prone to this mistake. 3 cheers for our queer old dean, rather than dear old queen, which is a reference to Queen Victoria, and a well-boiled icicle, rather than well-oiled bicycle are a few examples among many more utterances of his with this trait, though actually some of them were invented and attributed to him just because they are the sorts of things that he would say. Any form of word slip will be embarrassing to the addressed companions or public audience. In 1901, Sigmund Freud suggested that it indicates a secret desire, revealing a truth that speakers wish to conceal or would rather deny. He claimed that slips reveal a conflict between something that insists on being said and the inner force that seeks to repress it. It is the unconscious, he said, that operates here, and the wrongly uttered word is not random but meaningful. Modern cognitive psychologist Donald Norman argues against Freudian interpretations. Having studied these word slips in detail, he claims that most common forms of slips are forced to occur by the intrusion of habit. He compares word slips to behavioral ones, such as the case where you find yourself using your own house key to try to unlock a friend's door. It is, he says, simply a matter of habitual sequence. The same is true with absent-mindedly uttering a wrong word in the wrong place, and therefore the word itself is nothing meaningful. Whether meaningful or not, these slips might cause some serious trouble, especially when the speaker is in an important position like a politician or a scholar. Quite a few public figures are often reported on TV to have made such a slip of the tongue as cannot be passed over. For example, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Gordon Brown, said to Parliament, "We not only save the world, save the banks." A slip which seemed to suggest an unconscious sense of global power on his part. If things go according to Freud, they meant what they said on the unconscious level, which can become a serious matter. On the other hand, if their excuse that it was just a simple slip is to be widely believed, the cognitive psychological interpretation has supported it. Those people, like the President and the Oxford Don, are fortunate in a sense to be publicly recognized as people who would easily say such things. Anyway, the best policy is that you should be careful of your tongue if you would not like to make so serious a mistake in your speech or to be treated as such a person.